So welcome to your practice today. Today's practice is going to be really about wringing out the angst in the body. And we're going to do that by doing a series of twists and chest openers to just kind of free up the spine, unwind the spine, and kind of open up the body and the mind. I just want to invite you today to try to make those twists happen from the upper back and the ribs rather than the low back. Okay, I want you to really try to get that twist through the upper back and ribs, not so much twisting and torquing out the low back if possible. All right, I'm also going to invite you to use your gaze to look upwards. But if you feel any strain or any tension in the neck, and if that feels uncomfortable, then you're always invited to look downwards in those twists. You should be able to hold your twists without cranking your neck to look upwards, okay? So those twists, you should be able to hold them, and it's not the neck that's gonna get you or the gaze is gonna get you into that twist. It's the twisting from the spine, okay? From the upper back and the ribs, all right? So today I do have some props with me. I do have some yoga blocks. If you don't have yoga blocks, then you can feel free to use maybe a big book or a couple of books stacked. And I do have a yoga strap. So if you do have a yoga strap, you will need this today. And if you don't, then feel free to grab an old towel or a man's tie, anything like that you can grab hold of, a blanket, anything like that, okay? So we're gonna keep those props over to the side, so I'll grab them when I need them. So welcome everyone, and we're going to get started. So today we're actually going to start in a kind of hero pose position. So if this is uncomfortable for you, then feel free to grab a block and sit on the block. We're going to come down and sit back onto our heels. All right, and we're just going to start here today. So again, if this feels uncomfortable on the knees, prop a block under the hips. You can separate the feet a little bit, put a block there, or just come to sit on your bum and cross your legs, whatever feels good. So we're just going to start here at the back of our mat and just place our hands on our thighs, close our eyes. Maybe take a couple of deep breaths in through the nose and open up the mouth. Exhale with a little sigh. Couple of more times. Just allowing ourselves to come into this space and just kind of let everything else go around us, all that external world, and just kind of be here on our mat. And we kind of need to do that with a couple of cleansing breaths. Begin to find your Ujjayi breath. So beginning to breathe in through the nose, inhaling, bringing a little sound to the breath, a little ocean sound. Exhaling through the nose, little constriction at the back of the throat to bring that ocean breath. Begin to hear it a little, begin to feel it. Begin to lengthen out the inhales and exhales, seeing if you can make them the same length or close to. Go ahead and begin to flutter the eyes open. And then just slowly coming forward onto the fingertips. We're going to prop ourselves up onto our toes, maybe even open the legs just a little bit under the hips. Make sure you're towards the back of your mat. And then go ahead and sit back onto the heels. So we're going to give a little stretch out through the bottoms of the feet. And today we're going to actually practice a Tibetan Sun Salutation. So it's something a little different from our knees. We'll go through it slow the first time, and then we'll begin to speed it up with the breath as we go through it a couple more times. Let's bring the hands to heart center. And on your next inhale, we're going to sweep the arms up and come to stand on the knees. As we exhale, let's bring the hands down to the mat and slide them forward into a high child's pose. Take a couple of breaths here. And on your next inhale, let's start to round the back as we slide the hands back towards us just a little. And then go ahead and exhale as you lift the hips, lift the legs, and send it back into downward facing dog. Again, spread those fingers wide. Press down into the knuckles. Little extra energy through the index finger and the thumb. On your next inhale, let's drop to the knees and the shins. Exhale as you sink back down into that child's pose, keeping those hips high. Draw the lower belly in. And on your next inhale, this time we're going to bring those hands all the way back towards the knees, lifting the arms up, sweep them up to come to stand on the knees, and exhale, hands to heart center as we sit the hips back towards the heels. And take a couple of breaths. So we'll go through that again a few times, and we'll start to speed it up a little bit with the breath. Inhale, go ahead and stand on the knees, sweep the arms up. Exhale as you take the hands down to the mat, slide them forward, and drop into child's pose. Inhale as you draw the hands back a little, round the spine as you come up onto all fours, and exhale into your downward facing dog. Inhale as you drop the knees to the mat. Exhale as you drop into your child's pose. Inhale as you slide the hands back, reach the arms up, come to stand on the knees. Exhale, hands to heart center as we sit back onto the heels. Again, inhale, reach the arms up as you come to stand onto the knees. Exhale as you slide the hands forward, find your child's pose. Inhale as you round the back, exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, drop to the knees. Exhale into your child's pose. Inhale as you slide the hands back, come to stand onto the knees, reach the arms. Exhale as you sit back onto the heels. One more time. Inhale, reach the arms up, come to stand onto the knees. Exhale, hands down, slide them forward into your child's pose. Inhale as you round the back, slide the hands a little forward towards the knees. Exhale into your downward facing dog. Inhale as you drop the knees. Exhale into your child's pose. Inhale as you slide the hands all the way back, come to stand onto the knees, reach the arms. And exhale as you sit back towards the heels. Take a couple of breaths here. And then go ahead and make your way onto all fours. We're going to keep the knees underneath the hips. You can release the tops of the feet to the mat. We're going to start to walk the hands forward, finding our way into puppy pose. So as we reach those arms forward, we keep the hips over top of the knees, and we begin to sink the chest or melt the heart towards the mat. Now you can release the forehead to the mat, or use a block under the forehead if you like. Feeling that stretch through the upper back and the shoulders. And when you're ready, lifting the forehead, shift forward just a little bit so you can take the weight off the shoulders and then make your way back up onto all fours. From here, we're going to take it into a thread the needle pose. So I want you to take your right hand, flip your palm up towards the ceiling, and then go ahead and take that right arm and thread it under the left armpit as you work it over to the other side of your mat, and then slowly start to lower that right shoulder down to the mat. Release the side of the head. And at the same time, keep the hips high. See if you can keep them stacked over those knees. Palm faces up on that right hand. And see if you can press a little bit into that right thumbnail and right pinky nail as you press down into the mat. Notice here if your left hip wants to kind of hike up and out. See if you can keep that left hip down and squared. Okay, at all times during this practice, again, same as we're trying to focus on twisting through the upper back and the ribs rather than the low back. I want you to think also about really trying to keep your hips or your pelvis squared to the top of your mat during these twists. And when you're ready, on your inhale, press into your left hand to help yourself up onto all fours. Go ahead, realign yourself, and when you're ready, flipping your left palm up, we're going to slide that left hand underneath the right armpit and work it over to that right side of our mat, working that left shoulder down onto the mat, releasing the side of the head. Perhaps you need a block under the head. Go ahead and make your adjustments. Again, a little extra press through that left thumbnail, left pinky finger as you press the nails down. Keeping the hips high and just breathing. Remember to keep that right hip squared down if you can. And then when you're ready, on the inhale, press into that right hand to help yourself come all the way back up to all fours. We're going to sit back again into that hero pose or saddle pose as we come back onto the heels. Now, if this isn't comfortable, grab a block, place it underneath the hips, all right? Or maybe it's a blanket. The knees can come apart. All right, so maybe this is a little bit more comfortable, or if you have knee issues, sit down on your bum, cross your legs. There's always options. All right, this is where we're going to need our towel or our strap or our man's tie, okay? So we're going to use this. Perhaps maybe you won't need it. I know I need this on one side a little bit more than the other. I'm going to turn this way so you can see me. So we're going to take our cow face pose arms. So I'm going to have you take your left arm. You're going to flip the palm back towards you and work your left hand, back of the hand, to that upper back. From here, you're going to take your right arm, lift it up, bend the elbow, and reach the right hand back. Perhaps you can work the fingertips together so that you make a connection with the fingertips. And at the same time, see if you can lift your chin away from your chest. Now, if that doesn't work for you and a connection isn't happening with the fingers, go ahead and grab a strap or a tie or a towel in your right hand. From there, you can grab the strap with the left hand, work your hands down as close as you can, and then hold those cow face arms. Okay, so really stretching out through the shoulders here. Again, making sure that we're not popping those ribs out. See if you can draw the ribs in, lift the chin away from the chest, and work on that shoulder opener. And one side is going to work a lot better than the other side, and that's okay. That's natural. We don't stress about it, but we just work on improving it. So we're really bringing some health to the upper back today, some range of motion to the shoulders. And when you're ready, gently starting to unwind those arms, maybe giving them a little shake out. And then we're going to work to the other side. So if you need to, and you know you need this on the other side as well, then keep that strap handy. We are going to go ahead and switch it up. So this time, the right arm is going to come back. We're going to bend it behind us, bring the back of the hand. See if we can work it up to the upper back. From here, we're going to take the left arm up, bend the left elbow, and reach back with those left fingertips to see if we can make a connection. Maybe those fingertips can grab one another. If not, you're using your tie or your strap to hold onto in the hands. Working your hands a little closer if you can. And then again, go ahead and check out those ribs. Notice if the ribs are popping out. See if you can draw those ribs down and in. Lift the chin away from the chest to look forward. For me, this side is a lot tighter. My right shoulder, I've had a few problems with my right shoulder, and it doesn't feel as good here, so it's a little tighter to get that right arm up. I need a little help on this side in order to fit the posture for my body rather than me trying to fit the posture. Notice if you're really arching through your low back. See if you can pull your belly button in a little bit towards your spine. Finding your breath. And slowly, when you're ready, beginning to release. And then go ahead and shake the arms out a little bit. Good. We're going to come up off of the heels. Maybe just open those knees a little. And this time we're going to take it into Dolphin's Pose. So I'm going to have you bring yourself down onto your forearms. Forearms are parallel to one another and about shoulder width apart. Take your hands and spread your fingers, place your palms onto the mat. From here, you're going to go ahead and tuck your toes under and lift your hips as you straighten your legs and walk your feet in towards your elbows. So this is our Dolphin Pose. It's kind of like a downward facing dog. See if you can keep your shoulders shifted over your elbows as you drop the crown of the head to the mat. If your knees are bent, that's fine. Just go ahead and see if you can press your heels a little closer towards the mat. Drawing that lower belly in, finding your breath. And then slowly Drop those knees down to the mat and make your way up onto all fours. And we're going to find our downward facing dog as we walk our hands a little bit further in front of us, spread our fingers wide, and then go ahead, lift the sit bones and the hips up as we press back into our downward facing dog. You might notice here a little extra room in the shoulders as you make your way into this down dog. Drawing the belly in. A little lift of that upper back to the top of your mat as you spin those outer arms in towards the center of your mat. And then bending the knees, looking forward to the top of your mat. Your choice to stroll, step, or perhaps hop to the top of your mat. Landing softly, and then release into your forward fold. Feet are about hip distance apart. Inhale halfway up as we draw our fingertips and hands onto our shins. Roll those shoulders back. And as you exhale, draw your navel into the spine as you forward fold. Inhale as we rise all the way to stand. Exhale, hands to heart center. Go ahead and bring your big toes to touch. Your heels are going to be about a thumbprint apart. And we're going to take it into chair pose. So we're going to begin to bend into the knees, sliding the hips back and down. And then go ahead and reach the arms up alongside the ears. So we're not going to go really deep into our chair pose here. We're just going to take it down a little bit as we bend into the knees, slide the hips back a little bit, tuck the pubic bone up towards the belly buttons, take a little bit of the arch out of the back, reaching the arms up. And then go ahead and hook your thumbs together. And then try to pull the arms apart, keeping those thumbs hooked, finding your breath. And think about squeezing everything to midline as you squeeze the inner thighs, squeeze the knees, the shins, even the outer hips, squeezing together. See if you can get your torso as upright as possible. And when you're ready, release the thumbs, bring the palms together, take an inhale as you reach up, and as you exhale, we're going to spin to the right into our twisting chair, bringing our left arm, left elbow over to the right thigh. Press that top hand into the bottom hand as you begin to spin the chest open to the right, taking it in to your chair pose with a twist. Draw the navel in, lengthen from the tailbone to the crown of the head. And then slowly, we're going to begin to float the left leg back behind us, landing on the ball of the left foot. Finding a lunge here with our twist. See if you can keep the feet about hip distance apart so that you're not walking on a tightrope. Again, inhale, lengthen, exhale as you draw the navel in. Press the top hand into the bottom hand as you turn to open the chest again a little bit towards the right. Maybe you gaze up, maybe you gaze forward or down. Find a little bit of extra energy in that back leg as you press through that back heel. Keep pinning that right hip back. Try not to sink into or let that right hip kind of release out. You want to kind of get a little bit extra energy through that front thigh. Feel that front thigh working as you pin the right hip back and find some stability in the pelvis, keeping that pelvis squared to the top of the mat. And then go ahead and release your hands to the mat. We're going to step back to our downward facing dog. And then when you're ready, take an inhale and sweep your right leg back and up into three-legged dog. We're going to begin to open the right hip as we bend the right knee, stacking the right hip on top of the left for a little opening in the hip. And then slowly and softly, we're going to drop the right foot behind us onto the ball of the foot and spin to the outer edge of the left foot, straightening the left leg. We're working into Wild Thing as we press the hips and the torso, the chest up towards the ceiling. Bring your right hand to your heart. Press into the toes on the right foot. Press into the outer edge of the left foot as you lift the hips. And when you're ready, come back to your downward facing dog. Or find your child's pose. Let's work into our one-legged king pigeon pose. So we're going to take the right leg, bring the right knee, line it up behind the right wrist, as we shimmy that left leg back. Release the top of the left foot to the floor. Now we can hold it here. If you want to make this a little deeper, you can work your right shin more parallel to the top of your mat. From here you can stay high. Maybe you use some blocks to come down onto your forearms. Or maybe you bring your forearms right down onto the mat. If it's feeling good today, maybe you can start to walk the arms forward and release the chest over top of that right shin. Release the head to the mat. Wherever you are, check that your hips, again, are squared. Your pelvis is squared to the top of your mat. All right, maybe you're collapsing a little bit into that left hip. Your right hip is lifting. See if you can square the hips, lift that left hip away from the floor, and even if you need to prop a blanket or a block underneath that right hip to help you out, then go ahead. Again, finding your breath. If you can work with your Ujjayi, please do. Keeping ourselves present here on our mat. And when you're ready, go ahead and lift your torso, keeping your legs the same. We're going to start to spin our chest to the left. Maybe you can just bring your right forearm down onto the mat. Or maybe, if you have the option to do this, you might be able to work your right elbow into the arch of your right foot. But if not, just take that right elbow onto the mat, take your left hand, create a prayer, just like we did in our chair twist, all right, as we twist and open the chest to the left side. Lengthen on your inhale, exhale into your twist. And then releasing, coming back. Good. Place the hands down, curl the back toes under, and step back to find your downward facing dog. Go ahead and maybe walk it out a little bit. You find some sensation in that right hip. And then holding your downward facing dog, we're going to go ahead and take our left hand and reach it to the outside of our right shin. Inhale, exhale as you twist, and then maybe look up under that right armpit for a variation of our down dog. Release that left hand back down, and then go ahead and take your right hand, reach it to the outside of your left shin, grabbing hold of that shin. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale as you twist to look under the left armpit. And release the right hand down. Go ahead, bend your knees, look forward, your choice to come to the top of your mat. Landing with the feet hip distance apart. Exhale into your forward fold. Inhale, let's come up halfway onto the shins. Again, draw the belly in, roll those shoulders back. And on your next exhale, draw the navel to the spine as you forward fold. Inhale as we rise all the way up. Exhale, hands come to heart center. Go ahead and bring the big toes to touch. Heels about a thumbprint apart. Spread the big toe from the little toe, set them down. And working into our chair pose again as we start to bend the knees and then slide the hips back. Draw the belly in, reach the arms up alongside the ears. So again, it's not a really deep chair pose today. I want you to take it enough that you can keep the torso lifted nice and tall. And again, we're going to go ahead and hook the thumbs. Now remember how you hooked last time. It's usually the most common way you'll just do it without thinking about it. Try to hook the opposite thumb the opposite way this time. And then go ahead and try to pull the arms apart as you relax the shoulders down your back. Keep squeezing everything to midline. Add a little smile. Relax the muscles on the face. Go ahead and release the thumbs. Inhale, and as you exhale, palms come together. This time we're spinning to the left, turning those ribs to the left as we take the right elbow to the left thigh. Sitting a little lower, see if you can drop the hips so that you can keep the head and the heart above the hips. Again, press that top hand into the bottom hand. So we want to drop the hips to keep the torso lifted rather than dropping the head below the heart. So we want to drop those hips, slide them back. Think about sliding the shins back as well. You can look down to that left corner of your mat, or maybe to the side wall, or maybe up over that left shoulder. This time, as we look down to the top of our mat, we're going to float the right toes back, landing on the ball of the right foot into our lunge. Again, find some strength in that back leg as you press through the heel. Maybe you need to adjust your twist a little bit. We're into our high lunge with a twist. Press that top hand into the bottom hand again. Draw your navel to your spine. Again, pinning that left hip back. Make sure it's not sticking out to that left side of your mat. You want to pin the hip back and under. And then go ahead and release the hands to the mat. Step back to your downward facing dog. go ahead and inhale. Sweep that left leg back and up to your three-legged down dog. Start to bend the left knee, dropping that left heel behind you towards the right butt cheek. See if you can stack your left hip on top of your right hip and still press back evenly through both arms. And then slowly and softly, we're going to take those left toes over and drop them to the floor behind us. Spin to the outer edge of that right foot, and then start to straighten through the right leg as you turn those hips up and bring your left hand to your heart into our wild thing. And then when you're ready, come back over and find your downward facing dog. Notice how your down dog feels again. Notice the shoulders, the space may be created through the upper back. Now let's take that left knee and draw it behind the left wrist into our King Pigeon Pose. One-legged here as we take the right leg, shimmy it back, release the top of the foot. So again, choosing your option here because our sides are different. So maybe a little tighter on this side. If you need to prop a block or a blanket under that left hip, do so. Maybe you bring your forearms down to a block, a book, or maybe even onto the mat. Again, squaring those hips forward. Don't let yourself collapse into that right hip. Lift the right hip up and away. Maybe walking the arms forward and releasing the forehead to the mat. Release the chest over that shin. See if you can keep the length in the spine here. In whatever position you're in. Think more about length in the spine rather than trying to get lower in the pose. And then leaving the legs where they are, just lifting the torso. We're going to spin the chest to the right this time. And again, maybe just placing the left forearm onto the mat here. Maybe those right fingertips prop up. As you inhale, lengthen, exhale, and twist. Maybe you can take the left elbow onto the mat. Take the right hand, press it into the left hand. Again, inhale, lengthen, exhale into your twist. If you're one of the lucky ones and you can get that left shin parallel to the mat, then maybe you can work your elbow into the crook or into that arch as you take that little bit of a twist. Press that top hand into the bottom hand so you can lift out of that shoulder and twist through the upper back and ribs. And then go ahead and release. Place those hands on the mat. Curl the back toes under. And then go ahead, step back to your downward facing dog. And take a few breaths here. Again, as you just notice the space that you created in that upper back and in the shoulders. Exhale and release your shins and knees down towards the mat. Good. We're going to come over to a seated position, facing the top of your mat. I'm going to face you here for this one. We're going to open the legs nice and wide, wider than the hips, feet flat on the floor. We're going to take a nice little shoulder stretch here, and it's a little bit more of a difficult one, but we'll try and see how we're doing with it. We're going to bring our elbows to the inside of the knees. From here, you're going to fold your forearms back towards the body, bringing the backs of the hands towards the waist. So it's a little tougher to work on. Just work where you can. So the backs of the hands are pressed against my waistline. And then from here, you can go ahead and maybe even squeeze the knees for a little deeper stretch. Squeeze the knees in a little bit. Good. Just noticing how that stretches out through the shoulders. If you need a little bit more of an intensity in this stretch, you can always walk the backs of the hands up a little bit higher on the ribs. If you want a little less intensity, bring those hands down closer towards the hips. Again, you can squeeze the knees maybe a little bit to feel a little bit more intensity in the stretch. Finding your breath. And then slowly releasing. Maybe giving those wrists, a couple little circles. Ooh, feel that on the backs of the hands a little bit too. Oh, there we go. All right. Let's go ahead and reach our legs out in front of us. We're going to do a little bit of a twist here. So we're going to take our left leg, bend it back towards us. So we're going to bring that left heel towards the right hip and then bring our right foot on the outside of our left knee. Again, if you need to kind of maybe pick up the hips, set them back down so that you can feel both sit bones on the mat. Make sure that right foot is fully on the mat as well. If the arch is lifted, maybe walk the foot a little bit more forward so you can place the foot down. Let's bring our right hand behind us, just in line with our tailbone. Inhale, reach that left arm up. And then exhale as we take that left elbow, left arm to the outside of the right knee into a little stop sign hand. Now inhale again, lengthen through the spine. And as you exhale, begin the twisting motion with your core, so through the belly and the low back. And then when you've got as far as you can, see if you can add a little extra movement through the ribs and then through the chest, and then gazing back over the right shoulder. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale and twist. And then slowly begin to unwind with the neck first, followed by the chest, the ribs, and the core. Again, go ahead, stretch your legs out in front, maybe shake them out a bit. This time we're going to bend the right heel back towards the left hip and set the left foot on the outside of the right knee. Again, making sure that that left foot is as flat to the mat as it can be. And then taking the left hand behind us, inhale the right arm up. Take a big inhale, clear the chest and the belly out of the way as you exhale and bring that right elbow to the outside of the left knee. Again, inhale and lengthen, and then exhale as you twist through the core, then maybe through those ribs, chest, and gazing over that left shoulder. Again, if that's uncomfortable on the neck, you can always continue to look forward. The neck is not what takes you into the twist. All right, we're working from the rest of the spine, not necessarily the cervical spine. We're working, if we can, as much as we can through that upper back, through the ribs, to really work on that twist and that opening and that wringing out of the spine. Wringing out all the angst, all the worry. Just finding a space of peace, stillness. And then go ahead, begin to exhale as you unwind through the neck, the ribs, the chest, the ribs, and the core. And then go ahead, release, shake those legs out. We're going to make our way down onto our back. We're going to keep those feet on the mat about hip distance apart. And we're going to take it into a little different variation of bridge pose today. So a little bit more opening through the shoulders. We're going to bring the arms back overhead. And we're going to flip the palms down towards the floor so that our thumbs face out and our pinky fingers are in towards one another. So it might be a little bit more difficult, especially, if you have a little bit less mobility in the wrists and the forearms there, and especially through the shoulders. But we'll just work it down as much as we can, pressing as much as we can through the palms. And then slowly, we're going to begin to tuck the tailbone, lifting the spine one vertebrae at a time as we press into the feet, lifting the hips up as much as we can towards the ceiling. Keep reaching back through the arms, pressing the palms down. Keep looking up so your gaze is up. And just notice and feel the energy and the blood flow through the arms and the shoulders. Press into those feet a little bit more. Lift those hips. See if you can bend and arch through the upper back more than through the low back. Remember that cue at the beginning of class. See if we can make this practice about the upper back and ribs. And then slowly begin to place one vertebrae at a time back down onto the mat as you release yourself down. And then release the arms. Bring them down to the side body, palms up. Maybe heel toe those feet out as wide as your mat and just let those knees support one another. Take a couple of deep breaths, fully exhaling to the bottom of the lungs. And then slowly gathering those knees in towards the chest. And just give yourself a little rock and roll from side to side. And if you like, maybe you can take a couple of rock and rolls forward and back as you use the legs. Rolling a little further up each time, rolling a little further back onto those shoulder blades as well as you massage up and down the spine. And then when you're ready, allowing yourself to come back down onto your mat. Letting those legs release out, finding our final posture, Shavasana, as we turn the palms to face up. Relax the hips and let the feet fall away from one another. And as we did at the beginning of the class, take a few breaths in through the nose. Open the mouth and exhale with a sigh. And then leaving the lips parted, just begin to breathe normally. Noticing any thoughts that come in and cross the mind. Just acknowledge them and let them float by like big white clouds in the sky. can take a little body scan, working from the crown of the head all the way down to the toes, noticing if there's any places that you're holding a little extra tension. Stopping in those places that we do that, maybe around the shoulders. Take a little extra breath, a little extra time here. See if you can let go and release a little further and then move on. Maybe around the hips. Maybe even around the belly and the heart center, the solar plexus. Take a moment to hang out in those spots. Just notice. Working your way down to your toes. You're welcome to stay here in your Shavasana. Or if you like, go ahead, begin to find that Ujjayi breath again as we inhale through the nose, exhale through the nose. And maybe bending the knees, making your way onto any side you choose as you roll to one side, bringing your knees with you. And then slowly making your way up to seated. Again, your choice. Feel free to stay in your Shavasana. And we will close our practice together today with a big inhale and an exhale. And one final word. Namaste.